Well, welcome everyone. My name is Kate Schiavi from the Louisville Free Public Library, and we are super excited today to welcome you all to AnimeCon 17. This convention started back in 2003 and has happened every single year since then, and we could not let a pandemic stop us from doing it this year. So here we are for the very first time in a virtual space, and we are so glad that you're all here with us. Hello to everybody who has attended in the past. Hello to everybody who is attending for the first time this year. And we are so excited to welcome our special guest today, Jedimanda. And she is here to talk about her new book called Creative Cosplay. And also, one of our AnimeCon alum is here to interview her. Ariel Edlin is here to conduct the interview, and we are going to go ahead and get started with that. I did want to mention we have copies of Jedimanda's book to give away. Super excited. Thank you so much for the donation of those. And if you're interested in winning one of the books, all you need to do is go and join our Discord server and go to the cosplay channel. Put in a picture of yourself in cosplay and you will be entered to win one of the books. If you're one of the winners, we'll reach out to you and direct message. And I look forward to seeing everybody's cosplay there. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jedimanda, who is our special guest today. I'm going to read her biography or her bio from her book. So. Amanda Haas lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and spends most of her time creating cosplays. She earned a bachelor's degree in fine arts from the University of Louisville and has sewn professionally for almost a decade. Amanda attends cosplay competitions nationwide as a competitor and as a judge. She has placed and won many cosplay competitions, has been featured on the cover of Cosplay Culture and Kohaku magazine, and has appeared in Star Wars Insider magazine and has graced the websites of Nerdist, D23, Sci-Fi, and Marvel.com. Amanda divides her home life between her full-time job at Custom Wig Company. She's an associate wig builder, and her night owl passion of making costumes in her sewing loft, which is where she is today. Amanda loves to share her knowledge of costume sewing with anyone who will listen and hopes to continue teaching everyone about cosplay. Follow Amanda throughout her cosplay journey on her social media and her websites. Website's jedimanda.com, and all her social media handles are Jedimanda. So thank you so much for being here. And Ariel, thank you so much for interviewing our special guest here.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to go ahead and hide myself, and you all can go and talk to each other. Thank you so much.
Hi, Ariel.
Hello. It is so good to see you.
I
know, especially during this pandemic, watching your tutorials on YouTube and your social media posts have definitely been a bright spot for me. Because your art is just, it's art.
Yeah.
And it's the detail that you put in and your dedication to helping others learn about it. It's truly an inspiration. And as an aspiring cosplayer, I definitely am honored to be able to talk to you today.
Of course. And that is one of the things that I really do love about cosplay is the teaching aspect. It's not something that I started doing outright when I was cosplaying, but it's definitely something I've fallen into, especially with my YouTube. But I really do like it, and I hope to keep going with it, and I hope my tutorials keep teaching people how to do this, because this hobby is super fun.
Perfect. Well, when your book Creative Cosplay came out, I quickly pre-ordered. So one of these days I definitely need to get your John Hancock on it.
Absolutely.
So with it, it is full of great information about cosplay. And obviously you have a lot of great experience. So how did you first get into cosplay?
I first got into cosplay a bit weirder than most people. I actually started sewing and sewing professionally way before I even knew what cosplay was. I went to school, as the bio said, for fine arts, but I also started studying costuming and costume design at U of L, and also started costuming shows at U of L, designing for actors, designing for directors, getting that whole costume design professional experience. And then once I graduated, I took a job as a tailor's apprentice, kind of learned the bulk of my skill. Wasn't really making costumes yet still. And then I also started working for the ballet here locally. And I just really got fed up with making these beautiful things for actors and dancers and not being able to wear them. So I was like, I really love costuming. Why am I not wearing these? And I remember back in 2012, I think was my first convention, Derby City Comic Con. RIP. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of everybody's first Comic Con here, and probably AnimeCon here for the library. But I kind of learned from a friend that, hey, we're gonna go to this convention. Do you want to dress up? And I was like, I thought that was like something people do at like San Diego Comic Con. I thought that was only like one type of cosplay convention. They're like, no, you do it everywhere. And I was like, okay. And so I basically whipped out costumes for two of my other friends who went as characters from Mortal Kombat and had a blast. And that is kind of how I got into cosplay, was more or less a stumble upon and also a fed up with costuming actors and dancers and wanting to wear the pretty frilly things. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Have there been any challenges that you faced along your journey towards being a published author?
Oh, well,
and being an award-winning cosplay artist?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as challenges goes, there's challenges with everything. There's challenges with making, there's challenges with competing, of course, challenges with writing this book. This book kind of fell into my lap. I was reached out by CNT Publishing, which is the publishing company that published my book. And basically they make hobby craft books. They make a lot of quilting books, embroidery, and they were like, cosplay is a thing. Why don't we make some books on that? And so I kind of got headhunted by them. One of the ladies saw me speak at Gen Con, believe it or not. And I was like, of all places, okay. And they just reached out to me. I was like, have you ever wanted to write a book? And I was like, I got C's in English. Like, I am not good at the grammar. I make run-on sentences like it's my job. Like, no one's gonna want to edit that. But they just kind of convinced me and more and talked it through. And yeah, I ended up writing a whole freaking book. And that was a huge challenge. That was the biggest challenge I've probably faced so far with cosplay, and I didn't even have to make a freaking costume for it. So to answer your question, there's been many. There's been many, but my favorite types of challenges are the ones that I know if I just like stick through it and research it, I can overcome it. And then that reward when you're done is just like, oh, it's that good feeling, you know? I love it.
That's awesome. And I know seeing a lot of your costumes in person, and also the beautiful artwork and photos that are posted in your book. You have everything from superheroes to Star Wars to historical figures. Do you have a favorite genre or a favorite style of cosplay?
You know, style is so it's getting really interesting now with the older I'm getting, that I am feeling that I am starting to develop a style. Like I'm starting to make the more elaborate things that take longer to make, and that cover me up more because I want that elaborateness. You know, when I first started out, my first thing I made was something from Mortal Kombat, and it was basically a swimsuit, you know. So I feel like my style as I'm getting older is getting more elaborate and queen level. But that's also just what I am drawn to. I'm drawn to something that has some crazy amount of design, and I want to try to recreate it. So yeah, I would say definitely more of that. And of the genres that I stick to, as my name says, I am mostly Star Wars. Star Wars and Marvel are my main two. However, I do very few bits of video games, mostly with one video game, Mortal Kombat, and then some other here and there nostalgia items from like Beetlejuice and like fun stuff from childhood. But mostly that's kind of where I stay. I'm very much in my own little hole.
It's a good hole to be in.
Hey, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It's good. It's fancy. It's fun.
What I know you mentioned that the woman at Gen Con had sort of asked you to write the creative cosplay book. What actually motivated you to go through with it and finish it?
My family and friends were like, you have so much knowledge. Why not put it here? Because I've been putting most of my effort as far as like teaching into my YouTube tutorials, and that only gets so far, you know, and they're really specialized because I like to make a costume and tell you how to make that one costume. I teach you here and there how to sew and what bias tape is, but that's not really my goal. So, and it's just like, it's always been something in my head. I'm like, of course I'd love something published and something like that. You know, it's, who wouldn't? That's kind of cool. But it's definitely me in my head and my friends and family being like, this is a great way for you to like push it a little further and like show people how to get into it. What is it? And also one of the main reasons I did this was there's not a lot of cosplay books out there right now, and there's a lot, but there are some, but they're mostly foam based, or they're very much an intro how to get into it, which this one is, but a bulk of it is learning how to sew. And I teach you how to sew, what is a sewing machine, like getting more into that, because in my opinion, sewing is the foundation of costume making in general. Like you got to have something to put that foam armor on, or you're just naked, you know? So you got to have something. So I feel like everybody really needs to learn the hard facts about sewing before they kind of get into this. And even if it's just learning how to make a skirt, like having that knowledge to put together something on your body and learning how to tailor your body to measurements and understanding how to take measurements is something that cosplayers desperately need to know if they want to start making costumes for themselves. So
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your creative process when sewing? Like, how do you select your characters, or, you know, how do you move through that design process? Do you do research?
Oh man, there's so much research. If anyone follows my Pinterest board, I'm so sorry because it is just littered. But I tend to stick to female-centered characters. However, I do some gendered bends, like Doctor Strange, one of my favorites, mainly because I just love his character and I just love the spooky, weird, mystical side of Marvel, and he's wonderful. So doing that is he's my one exception. I haven't done a lot of other gender bends, although I did in Luke Skywalker and Darth Maul, but that's since different. So I tend to stick with very strong women characters, and I'm just really drawn to that character. And if I don't like the character in the fandom or the genre, I'm not gonna do it because I just lose that oomph. One example I give is like back in the day when everybody was doing cosplay groups like all the time, I would always get stuck with a character. I just didn't really care. And one time I was in a group and I was Poison Ivy, and I was like, I don't care for Poison Ivy. Like I just don't, and like I was not having fun making that costume or wearing it. So I just kind of realized from then, I was like, well, I'm gonna just do the characters I want to do, because that helps me research and that helps me dive more into that fandom if I like the thing. So that ultimately is the first step. Do I like the character, you know? And I also look for heavy designed things, and that's part of me being a crazy seamstress. I like that challenge to do something that looks tough, but I'm like, I don't want to figure that out. So that's also where my eye leads. Captain Marvel, even as simple as it looks, it's just a suit, but that thing was one of the hardest things I've ever made, because there's all those lines and then the patterning on it was so hard. But that's what I like to go for. But researching and pinning and screenshotting and recording, and it's all a part of the process, and I love that just as much as I like making it. So to kind of wrap that up, yes, there's a lot of research that goes into it, and I have to really like that character before I dive and put a whole lot of money into it. So it's a lot, but it's extremely rewarding, man.
And you finished Captain Marvel before the movie came out, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because I'm crazy. I was actually working on Queen Amidala, the black gown, I call it the decoy dress, as that was happening, and I knew when Captain Marvel came out that I was gonna make it, but I was also like, I want to make it before the movie, because also that was before a very high profile convention I was going to, that I'd get, a whole lot of attention and press for it. So I was like, I really want to do it. So I worked for 3 months solid, I think, on that, using behind the scenes photographs, using these photos I got off Reddit, off of a weird board, like trying to get the different looks of that suit, because they were really tight, not releasing pictures. And I had to work off of the Entertainment Weekly front cover of Captain Marvel for like a solid month, and that was only knees up, and I couldn't see the back. So that's all I had to work with for like the bulk of the time making Captain Marvel. So that was fun. But I like to be a little crazy. I call myself a hype cosplayer. So if some kind of concept art or like a trailer drops, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make that thing now. So that's just kind of how I like to move. It's maybe unhealthy, but I don't care.
I mean, as someone who procures your work, I'm perfectly fine with that. You can do
Cool.
the hype you need.
That's fine.
You mentioned that you were going to that high profile convention, and I know you do a lot of cosplay competitions. Is there any advice that you'd give for someone trying to get started in competitions?
Yeah, I would say if you have the want to compete, awesome. Step 1, great job. 2, go watch a competition first. And I mean, not as in like just sitting, like you can go and watch a competition, but like really look and see what the cosplayers are doing on stage, how they're acting, what their mood is. Maybe if you go to the same type of competition that you want to do in like the next year, so you can see how the MC works, how the timing, how much you're supposed to stay on stage. And if you get a chance and you know somebody in the competition, be their handler or ask them to help them backstage before you even compete, because having that knowledge before you compete helps so much. Because one of the things that I love competing, but I had no idea that I would have to go on stage and like pose. Wait, what? And how long am I supposed to stand there? Like, it's just, you don't want that all dumped onto you, on top of you having to be prejudged with judges before you even go on that stage. It's a lot of mental obstacles to get through before you just kind of show off your costume on stage. And so, there is an aspect of being judged, but you're also in front of people, and you need to practice your outfit. You need to do all this stuff. So my biggest tip is to experience a competition as an audience member or a backstage handler before you compete. So biggest tip.
Definitely. I'm taking that one with me.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it really does help. And for a lot of people, I have told me that they're like, if I helped my friend backstage, and now I understand how long I have to stand up backstage, or I'm backstage for 2 hours before I'm doing anything. I need water, things like that. You don't know until you experience it.
I know you mentioned that for some costume contests, you have to like pose on stage.
Yep.
And your website, your book, your social media, all of those include some amazing photographs of your cosplay. What are some important things to remember when getting your cosplays photographed?
Oh, when getting the cosplays, well, first off, getting a good photographer. I'm very, 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 very lucky to have one of my best friends as my photographer, who does all the books, all the artwork in this book, Alexandra Lee Studios. Great person. She's wonderful and very easy to talk to. And she taught me a lot about posing. But one of my biggest things is to get to know a photographer, understand, what your photo shoot, what you want to be shot, also pay for your photo shoot, because they're going to have to edit your pictures and get them back to you. Unless for some reason, it's just you and a tripod and a camera, that's a whole different ball game. But there's all kinds of tips and tricks online about how to pose certain ways. One of the biggest things I tell people is to watch other people creepily, not as creepy, but like watch people at conventions, how they pose, how they do it, because there is a way when someone comes to you camera and you have a character that has like a Superman type pose or a type of pose that you have as a Disney princess or something like that. But do your research first and have like 3 or 4 key poses that you've practiced in front of a mirror and ready to hit on that convention floor, because that'll definitely help. I've done so many times where I I make a costume and I get to the convention floor and I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. No, you know, so just I'm all thumbs and it just like, so try to research that before. And doing a photo shoot is one of the most fun parts of cosplay. It's not something you have to do, but it's just like putting your artwork on a wall. You know, you want to be able to show it off if you want, and through photos is the best way to do that.
That's awesome. And I know for a lot of people, when they first start, they'll like buy their costumes.
Mhm.
And I do think posing and photography adds that next dimension to it.
It really does. Well, it also helps you get more into yourself and more comfortable with yourself costuming, because we don't wear these things every day. These are not normal clothes. And so putting something on that weighs 20 pounds and then going and trying to pose like this, it takes a lot. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. So I do suggest people to photograph themselves off, because it just makes them more comfortable in what they made as well, so you can show off better.
Definitely. I love it.
Mhm.
You've done tons of costumes.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
I know. I have favorites for many reasons. um, well, I would say my favorite one to wear, hands down, is Doctor Strange. One, it's really cool. So I really put a lot of time into that, and I still gush over that freaking costume. I don't know. I love it. And it's semi comfortable to wear. There's a corset and heels involved, but it's semi comfortable to wear. And I really vibe in it. I love wearing that. But also I recently this year made a Baby Yoda costume. And that thing for some reason is just like flies on lights. People just freaking love Baby Yoda, and like I got a lot of fun interaction with that. And that thing was comfortable but hot, so hot because it was so much fleece. But that is one of my favorite ones to wear now, is Baby Yoda. And it took me a week to make, and Doctor Strange took me like 4 months. It's how the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Having seen both of them, I will say Doctor Strange is probably one of my favorites as well. From
Yeah.
the details that you added to the wig, to the amazing harness system you have for that cape.
Yes, there is a harness system. Most people don't know that, but I do. I have a whole magnetized shoulder strap system that I have to wear, because that cape is too heavy with all of that detail and embroidery. It's too heavy to wear. And fun fact, Benedict Cumberbatch does wear a harness magnet system in the movie with his cape, because it is too heavy to stay on.
So it's still canon. It's perfect.
So it's still canon. Hey.
Do you have any features that you will build into your works? Pockets, anything like that you kind of always have a staple?
You know, pockets are starting to come more into me, especially getting older. I need places to put my stuff. But I never really thought about putting too much stuff in now, but definitely pockets and places to put things. I am thinking about that. But I also, when I make my costumes, I think about wearing them and traveling with them. So I try to make things break down as much as possible, because I like to travel via air and car to places. So I need to be able to move with these things. And one of my biggest pet peeves is making something and I'm done with it, and I can't put it in a box, or I can't break it down. And I'm like, oh, well, crap. Like, where am I going to wear it to, you know? And so having that is probably my one thing that I really think about is functionality when I make my costumes. And it's also something I judge people on at competitions, is functionality. Like, I know, you know, Captain Marvel wears that suit and walks up and down Los Angeles, but does she do a whole convention in it? And can you last a whole day in it? Can you move in it? You know, can you do all these things? So that's definitely something that I put into my costumes now a whole lot more, is being able to move and function in them, besides they look good on a mannequin.
totally understand that. You want to be able to use the restroom in your costume.
Yes, seriously, this is something you got to think about, guys. Most people don't. They're like, oh, it's just a spacesuit. But I'm like, but can you take it off by yourself and put it back on by yourself? No? Well, you're a creep then.
And your book, I know you do have instructions on how to make a bag that you can kind of use with your costumes, which I think is really fun.
I did that for my Captain Marvel. She has a little, I have a little bum bag on the back, lower part of my back that I keep everything because it's a suit, there's no pockets. And so being able to have that back there is pretty great. And she definitely does not have that in the movie. So sometimes you need to break canon for functionality in day to day.
Definitely. The cosplay community is pretty wide, pretty varied. You have a lot of sort of, I want to call them guests in your book that you feature. How has the cosplay community inspired you? And how do you find people that help share your passion and keep inspiring you?
That is conventions. I find the majority of my buddies through conventions and online, especially now with the virtual sense. But there's a shared passion in making, especially costume making, that I think people are really passionate about and are very willing to talk about. So all it takes is, one question, hey, how did you make that? And then you're instantly, that connection has been made, and you never know where that's going to be from. Like Alex and I, my photographer buddy, we got together because she was like, well, I would like to start shooting cosplay stuff for my portfolio. And I'm like, oh, I have a couple of things that need to be costumed. And the next thing I know, we're best buds, and she's, making artwork for my book. So it just takes that one just talk on how'd you make that, or can we work together, or, what pattern did you use? And connections are made. And I will 100% say that is the reason I go to conventions is to see people and meet people and have a lot of fun just being the goofball in your outfit. That's half the fun of cosplay, making it and then wearing it and just having a good time.
Definitely the sense of community is there. And people like to show off their work. Definitely. I love that.
We're all a bunch of show-offs. I mean, I don't really know a whole lot of people that just make the costume and never wear it. I mean, that half the reason is we make it and we want to put it on and prance about and say, look at me. We are a bunch of show-offs. And the thing is that all of us are the same. We're all a bunch of show-offs. So let's all show off our work at the same time. And it's totally fine and cool, and is one of the coolest parts of this whole weird hobby we do.
I know we just finished Halloween, and you just made your super fun, cute, like pumpkin dress, I want to call it.
Oh yeah, my little spooky dress.
Yes. Do you have anything in the works right now?
Well, right now I'm making, it's right in front of me. It's a little shawl actually I call it a capelet. I'm doing a special effects look for Melina from Mortal Kombat for a video that is not necessarily a whole costume, but it's kind of like a shoulders up looking, like, because her big thing is her really crazy teeth. So I'm doing that for a video, but my next big build is going to be Rose from Titanic.
Oh.
Her boarding dress, and it's white pinstriped with this giant hat. So that is December. And then I think after that, I really want to make another Queen Amidala. So that's what's on my list until we see some new movies or new television comes out where I need to move those guys aside and make something new. It will happen. I've done that before.
Perfect. Thank you. This is amazing. So I can't wait to see what else you put out, especially because we get a little bit of everything, and keep inspiring.
Oh, no problem. I will try my hardest. But thank you. This was fun.
Thank you so much. It's been great to hear you share your experiences. And Ariel, thank you so much for being willing to do this interview.
My pleasure.
Again, just to remind everyone, the Creative Cosplay signed copies will be given away. So head over to our Discord server during AnimeCon, post your pictures of yourself in cosplay, and we will do a drawing of everybody who enters that way. So thanks again, Jedimanda. We are so excited to hear from you, and we are really excited to see what you have coming next. So everybody remember,
Yay!
go follow her on social media, check out her website, and thanks all for coming today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.